It's been a while since we did one of these. How's it going, guys? It's Nate here, and at its release, and arguably even still today, Skyrim was easily one of the largest games available in terms of things to do and places to go out and visit. However, Bethesda seems to have wanted Skyrim to be even bigger, as a peek into the game's files reveals a huge amount of cut items, characters, locations, and quests that were all originally supposed to be in The Elder Scrolls V, but Bethesda ultimately had to remove. Either because they didn't have the time to finish, they decided to take another direction, or just flat out decided that whatever they decided to cut out was too much work anyway. So today, with our Explorer caps on, we're going to take a glance at what could have been and what almost was as we look at 5 more pieces of Skyrim's cut content. Starting off, the College of Winterhold is the largest academic institution in the entire province, as dozens of professors teach aspiring young students in the art of using magic. However, as anyone who's ever attended a college in the real world, or at least the US, can attest, there's a couple of things that make the College of Winterhold experience a bit inauthentic. For one, you're not graduating with crippling debt and in financial ruin, but the other, more relevant reason, is that Winterhold's college lacks any security. Where are all the campus PD officers to ensure there's no criminals afoot? The college doesn't let any Winterhold guards in, so what? Do they all just trust each other or something? Well, Bethesda had originally planned for this not to be the case, as in the game's files, there's actually a handful of NPCs named College Guard that were supposed to be guarding the college. They would have behaved similar to the generic hold guards that you can find in any given city, arresting you for committing a crime, saying things about arrows to their knees, etc. However, they would have been dressed in mage robes rather than cuirasses, and fought with spells and magic rather than swords and shields. Strangely, the NPCs were all finished and seemed to have been ready for implementation. Bethesda didn't run out of time to implement these characters, but instead just seemed to have deliberately chosen not to. Perhaps they feared that too many actors at the college could cause FPS and performance-related issues, but that's just my guess. What's yours? Next on our list, this one requires some context. Sadia is a Red Guard living in the Bannered Mare in Whiterun, and is the subject of the quest In My Time of Need, as she's being pursued by Alikar mercenaries who wish to take her back to Hammerfell and try her for treason, that she claims she didn't commit. Well, Hulda, the Bannered Mare's innkeeper, may occasionally say, "Sadia, wake up dear," when the Red Guard is asleep, to wake her up obviously.
Sadia, wake up dear.
Well, funnily enough, almost every NPC in the game has that very line of dialogue, "Sadia, wake up dear," recorded by their voice actors for them to say, but it's only used on Hulda. Jarl Bulgriff has the phrase, Nazim has it Feyendel, almost any NPC has that unused line of dialogue, for some creepy reason.
Sadia, wake up, dear.
Sadia, wake up, dear.
Sadia, wake up, dear.
I'll link a video in the description down below that actually shows this off. It's very strange. There's 2 prominent theories as to why this whole thing is. One argues that perhaps Sadia was supposed to be more of a radiant character, meaning she could have spawned in and lived anywhere in the game, rather than just the Bannered Mare, and Bethesda decided to record that line of dialogue for every potential character she could have lived with. But this would require a tremendous amount of work and scripting for a single, slightly more immersive quote. Doesn't make a lot of sense. What more likely happened is that this quote was accidentally thrown into the list of generic phrases that most NPCs can say, like, or what is it? So when Bethesda was recording dialogue, they had accidentally had all of their voice actors say that phrase. Or maybe there is some grand conspiracy or creepypasta that explains this all. Besides, that would be more fun to believe anyway. Coming in at number 3, in our first cut content video, we did touch a bit on how Skyrim Civil War questline was originally going to be considerably more complex and detailed. But today, I'd like to point out 2 specific cut Civil War features that I didn't go into as much detail as I wish I did. The first is that as cut dialogue reveals, there would have been a quest for both Civil War factions that involved the player confronting a giant that had been raiding their side supply caravans.
And then there's a tiny problem with a giant attacking our supply caravans. A giant! As if I didn't have enough to deal with.
Furthermore, you would have been given the opportunity to recruit giants to your faction's side. Though I'm not entirely sure how that would have worked out. They're not exactly the best of talkers. Also, the Dragonborn was intended to have the ability to assassinate various Stormcloak and Imperial commanders in their controlled cities or camps, depending on which faction you were at war with. This is the reason why in the vanilla game, so many Civil War commanders are marked as essential and are unkillable. There was going to be a way for you to kill them, but instead Bethesda changed their minds, seemingly at the last moment, and cut that quest out, and then forgot to make them mortal again. This sort of explains away one of my biggest problems with the game. Getting close to the end here at number 4, Stone Hills is a small mining settlement, west of Solitude in Hjalmarch. It's fairly insignificant, not involved in any quests, nor does it have more than a single building and some tents. But from the looks of it, this isn't what Bethesda originally set out to do with the community. Cut cell names and creation kit data reveals that Stone Hills would have resembled more of an actual village had the developers followed through with their early plans. The town would have held more residential buildings, and even had its own blacksmith. Additionally, a very curious character named RG Farseer, who would have been the sister of Morthal Jarl Ingrid Ravencrone, would have also had her home here in Stone Hills. It's possible she may have even had her own, or at least been attached to, a quest as well. So overall, this small collection of tents could have been greatly more relevant than the one that we've grown to know. And finally, last on our list, we have the slightly more interesting tale of Hiwanon and Draf. These are two bandits that can be found in the vanilla game, held up in the Rift and Ratways. In the release version, these two characters can be overheard discussing their plans to bash people's skulls in and likely rob them of their belongings. But once spotted by these characters, they will immediately start attacking the player. That's rather rude of them. Well, Bethesda had actually intended for this pair to be a bit more diplomatic with the Dragonborn. There was supposed to be a now cut dialogue sequence that would occur between the player and the two thugs once they spotted you. That would feel more like a traditional mugging. They would humorously order you to give them literally everything you own. From there, you'd have some options. Comply and presumably ruin your life. Say no, in which case your enemies would turn hostile. Or try and use some good old-fashioned intimidation to get them to leave you alone. With the player character literally being part dragon, it's fairly safe to say that this small encounter isn't one that would be too much of a hassle. But it would have been humorous nonetheless. And with that, we are going to wrap up. Thanks for watching, everyone. Which pieces of cut content on this list do you wish would have been added in the most? And what's your theory regarding the whole Sadia thing? Leave a comment down below. In the description, I'll also be sure to link Skyrim's Cutting Room Floor mod. This is a mod that restores quite a lot of cut content from Skyrim, including many of the things that we featured on this list and then some. It's available for both versions of Skyrim on PC and on the Xbox One. But again, thanks for stopping by. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.